All right, my friends, we have a doozy for you today. I think that's what they call it. I have spent, I don't know how many hours looking and watching and listening to live cold calls on YouTube from real estate agents calling for sale by owners and expired listings. And not only that, but through maybe thousands and thousands of direct messages on Instagram, comments on YouTube, emails directly to me of agents that say to me, I am trying to make this outbound prospecting thing work, and I just can't. It's not working for me. And after listening to so many calls, I understand why they don't work. I'm trying to be as polite as possible because it's really not your fault. If you're a real estate agent watching this and you believe in the idea that this is a sales business and your job is to proactively generate conversations so you can get in front of enough decision makers to get the amount of listings that you want, yet everything you've been trained to do is not working, there's an argument to be made that it's not all your fault. And so I've spent the last couple of hours listening to agents, good agents, make these live cold calls on YouTube, and boy, it's painful. I'll be upfront about that. It is painful. It's no surprise that this isn't working for most of you. And so I'm trying to be as empathetic as possible. But my goal for this episode is to help you fix that. If you sit there and you're making hundreds and thousands of phone calls and you're putting in the work and you're not getting the result, I'm going to do my very best in this episode to fix that. Because I can already hear it now. There's going to be somebody in the comment section. I'm going to get into some language patterns in a second. Yes, if you play the numbers game and you make hundreds and thousands of cold calls, yes, you'll eventually get an appointment. I get that. But doesn't it make more sense that you could be more effective, more efficient, communicate in a way that doesn't, quite frankly, piss people off, communicate in a way where people welcome the conversation, communicate in a way where you don't even get objections? So many of these calls, these agents are trying to respond and overcome these objections. Well, what if there was a way to communicate where you never got an objection ever? I'm going to show you that in today's video. So there's a couple of concepts that I need to show you first. Then I'm going to actually play a live cold call that's on YouTube right now. We're going to break this thing down so that you can hear what most agents sound like. Then you say to yourself, well, shit, no wonder these agents aren't getting anywhere. And then we'll break it down so that we can all get better from this video. All right. So that's the goal. So let me share my iPad for a second. You have to understand a couple of concepts. And once you do, then you'll hear it with this cold call that I'm going to play. You might even hear this in the calls that you're recording, that you're making. And then you could start to recognize the behavior, recognize the pattern that you have to break immediately if this thing's going to work for you. All right. So, yeah, let's dive into this thing. All right. So here's what we have to look at. And I've made some other videos about this, but we have to first understand, again, I'll just do a really quick recap. That's not what I want to do. I'll make a quick recap video on psychological reactance. All right. So here's just how the brain works. You have to understand this is how the brain works. People make decisions emotionally, they justify them intellectually. Every single one of you would say to yourself, yep, I've heard that before. Yet, when we communicate, we are communicating most of the time. Again, not your fault. It's probably some script you learned from God knows where. And you're just communicating with everybody's logic side of their brain. Not just that, but when you communicate, you are the one that is causing the person to resist you. that could be a huge aha moment for you. And I'll show you in a second why. You could be the one that causes the prospects to get mad because of how you're communicating. You're causing the resistance. You bring out the objections. And I'll show you exactly why this is. Because this is why. And you're going to hear this on the call a lot, okay? When we are selling, there's two options for people in their mind, right? To change, and we'll say not to change. And everything you have been taught to do logically is try to convince somebody to change. So all of your scripts and everything you say and every question you ask a prospect, you're going to hear it in this call. It's not just this call, it's every call I listen to is this way. You're presenting your questions in a way that would suggest the person change their current situation, their current state. Like selling, like meeting. You are the one championing the cause for these things. You're the one that are trying to get them to sell, trying to get the meeting, trying to get their email address, trying to send them something, trying to explain that now is the right time to sell. You keep making all these different arguments. Here's how the brain works, my friends, okay? It doesn't even matter if the person has any motivation to do this stuff. How my brain works, how your brain works, naturally because of psychological reactance, is when you are presented with something and you feel as though you're pressured to do something, you automatically resist and you automatically are more motivated to do the opposite. It doesn't matter even if you wanted to do the thing. If I try to convince you or you feel pressure, like I'm trying to pressure you to do this thing that I want you to do for my reasons, you then resist and do the exact opposite. Most of you understand that concept, yet you just don't know how to communicate in a way where you stop getting into this pattern of you trying to convince, and then you've got sellers and you've got prospects trying to, they push against you. All right. And so let me walk you through that. All right. So there's two concepts in sales. There's this concept of push and pull. And all of you are spending all of your time in this quadrant of trying to pull people towards you. Let me do this and let me do that, or can I do this, or can I do that? And every time you try to pull them closer, this is what I call the buyer-seller tug-of-war. You'll hear it on this call in just a second. Every single time you try to tell somebody, you try to present a case on why they should do something. Should is the key word. That's you trying to pull somebody towards you, right? I'll just give you a picture, might be better. So this is you. This is the prospect, right? So this is the salesperson. This is the prospect. Every time you ask a question, it's designed because, again, you've been taught shit scripts. You've gone through shit sales training in your career because that's pretty much all that exists in real estate. And you ask one of these stupid questions that elicits psychological reactance, like, the market's really, really good right now. You might consider selling right now because, your house is worth a lot more now than it was before. Logically, nobody's arguing with you. Logically, you're right. And that's why you can't understand in your head, like, what does this person not understand? Are they stupid? Why? Their house is worth $300,000 more now than it was 2 years ago. Why are they not selling? Because you don't understand what we're talking about here. So these are all arguments for you trying to pull them towards you. Pull them towards closer to, in your world, a sale, a meeting, an appointment. And every time you do that, what does the prospect do? They pull back. They pull back. This is the tug of war. You try to pull them closer to you. And we know through science, when we try to pull, it's natural for someone to try to pull against you. And this is what's happening on these prospecting calls. goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's why most of them end up with prospects getting mad at you. Most of them end up with prospects giving you all these objections that you don't know how to answer. And you just keep pissing off the prospect the longer the call becomes. What we have to do, and it's my goal to teach you how to do this on this episode, is you have to start being the one to push away, to gently push away. And so watch this. If you were to push somebody, okay, you were to apply, you stand in front of somebody and you push against their shoulders, what do? You guessed it. They push back. They push back. So what does that mean? In the art of selling, how do we do this? If we make the argument, our push away is us presenting either a no, or we make an argument for why they, listen closely, should not do something. When we make the argument for why they should not do something, it motivates the person to argue against us, and they then start to verbalize their own reasons for why they should. So this is why even when you have, this is what happens. You talk to a seller and you ask them, hey, are you interested in selling your house? It is a terrible question to ask. And every single script seems to have some type of version of that. The prospect almost every time says, nope, I'm not interested. And then not a week goes by, you see a for sale sign in their front yard with one of your competitors. Why is that continuing to happen? So even when you have somebody who's motivated and you ask them, are you motivated? They're still telling you no. You can't get to the truth, not because prospects don't owe you anything. There's no such thing as bad prospects. There's only bad salespeople, because you don't know the language patterns of how the human brain works. You're asking questions, not your fault. I understand that. These are just scripts you downloaded from some real estate guru or some famous real estate coach. And you're just going off of what they said that you should do, and it's not working. So we have to completely change the fundamentals of how we're communicating with people if we're going to get different responses. If you want to be treated differently, you have to communicate differently. If you want prospects and you want people to respond to your communication differently, you have to change. So let's go through this call so you can hear it, and I can give you real examples of what's really going on here. All right. So let me hit play. Let me turn this up so you should be able to hear this.
Hello? Hi, Christopher? Yes. Local realtor. I'm giving you a quick call in regards to the house you previously had for sale on Pearson Drive. Yeah. I was curious, are you still considering offers on that property?
Okay. Right from the gate. All right. Right from the gate. Okay. Let me share my screen. So this will really, really, really make a lot of sense for you. All right. Watch. So we're going to draw this. So we're going to say change. No change. We talked about this. So far, she says, are you accepting offers? She is the one that brings this to the table. Well, accepting offers in the mind of the prospect is what? It's getting them to change. It's getting them to do something. In a few videos ago, I talked about perceived bias. So you, in this case, this agent cold calls somebody out of the blue and says, hey, are you accepting offers? The prospect here, salesperson, I need to defend this. Even if they were accepting offers, what are they more motivated to say now? No. because you made the argument or you presented information that threatened the prospect because they start to feel a little pressure. If I say yes, this is a salesperson, they're probably going to use that in a way to pressure me to do something that I simply don't want to do. So, how are we going to invert this? If you're calling and you're using some type of script asking prospects, are they doing what you want them to do? And you're often hearing some type of resistance or rejection to that, get in front of it. Put the thing that they keep saying in front of your question and allow them to argue against you. Let me give you an example. All right. So instead of saying to the prospect, Mr. Prospect, I was calling about your property that was on the market. Are you still accepting offers? Remember how that question gets perceived. We have to do the opposite of that. Mr. Prospect, I'm calling about your home that was on the market. And I get the feeling, even if you were presented with a great offer, you're going to tell me you're not interested. Am I right? Now, you're the one who presents no change. We say, I get the feeling you're not interested. We say that. Now, listen, psychological reactance is always working. So when we make the argument and we assume there's no interest, the person who is fights against that. No, that's actually not the case. If we had an offer, that's what we're trying to do is sell the house. They start to argue against it. So you have to be the one to introduce no change and see if prospects argue against that for the change. Yeah? All right, let's keep going.
No, we decided to stay. Oh.
Shocker. It's probably what you hear all the time too. Nope.
Okay. We had found a house that we thought was a great opportunity, and then with COVID and all, it just all fell apart. So we were only moving because we found our house that fit everything we were looking for. So we're not interested in moving anymore. We decided to just fix it up, our existing house up, and stay. Okay, where were you going to move to? Were you going to stay in Warwick, or were you getting out of Warwick? No, we were moving right down to Spring Garden, right down on the water. Yeah. Oh, okay, I gotcha. Now, if something like that popped up, would you be interested in moving again, or are you pretty set on just staying where you are now?
There you go again. Now you're starting to hear it. Did you hear what she said? So the guy says, okay, well, no, where were you moving? Where were you planning to move? He says, well, we're going to go down to the X, Y, and Z city. We're going to get on the water. Again, not her fault. This is the natural way that we communicate. And then it's reinforced by bad training in the real estate sales industry. She says, so here's the second argument. If something pops up there, would you consider moving there? Right? She says, would you consider moving if something pops up? Well, of course she's asking this. She's a salesperson. She wants to get a commission. Prospects aren't stupid, right? And so she asks another question, trying to get the person in motion, right? This is her trying to pull closer, remember? And so when we pull a prospect closer to us because we ask a sales question, it's so obvious what you're doing to the prospect. Prospect says, well, we were going to move down to Florida for X, Y, and Z reason. Well, if you could still move down to Florida for X, Y, and Z reason, would you? What do you think the prospect's going to say? Watch. He's going to say, nope.
I think we're waiting for about a year, maybe. I just started a new job in January, too, and I need 2 years employment.
Now he starts to make all the arguments for why he can't change. All right? All the arguments why he can't change. You made the argument for, hey, if something pops up, would you still want to move there? Because of psychological reactance, because of perceived bias, because that question is only in the benefit of you as the salesperson, prospect feels sales pressure and has to defend it. No, here are all the reasons why I'm not going to do that. So what do we have? What type of question would we want to ask instead? We have to invert it. Okay. These are called negative questions. So when I train a real estate agent and they get into my world of coaching, we teach them the language and structure of how to put these questions together. So how do we invert this? Well, I taught you on question 1. I'll teach you on question 2. Remember the questions she said. She said, if something pops up in the place you wanted to go, would you still move there? He starts to argue all the reasons on why, no, he's not going to move there. So we need to invert that. So we say, Mr. Prospect, I get the feeling that at this moment in time, I mean, even if you could find a house that was on the water, was the perfect home, you got this property sold, at this point, you're going to probably tell me that, you're going to put all that on hold. Am I right? We make the argument for him not doing anything so that he can fight for the reasons on why he should. Starting to get the hang of this? Watch, it gets better.
I gotcha. I mean, as long as you're in the same, if you're in the same profession, like the same job field, you don't technically need to be in that job for 2 years. You just need at least 2 years of employment for the loan officer to see. So as long as you have that, you should be pretty good to go.
Did you hear that part? She can't help herself. And again, I don't mean to beat her up, but she cannot help herself. It's just how she's been hardwired. Listen to this part. In the prospect's reasoning on why he can't move, he started a new job. He gets into this part about, I need to be on this job for 2 years to qualify, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, what do you think an untrained salesperson is going to do? He starts to make an argument for why he can't, right? Over here. What does she do? Goes right back into her world. Now she starts to argue why he's wrong. Oh, you know what? You don't actually need to be on the job. As long as it's in the same industry, she's making another argument for why he should do something, right? So she says, you don't need 2 years for this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason, because I want to get you to move. You see, I'm a commission salesperson. This is commission breath manifesting in real time. So he's making arguments for why he can't do something. This is the tug of war, remember? It goes back and forth, ping pong, back and forth. I can't do it. Nope, you can. You should do this. No, I don't want to. Doesn't stop.
Yeah, I think it was because it's my own business, so it's self-employed. Oh, gotcha. It made it more complicated. That makes sense, yeah.
Right? So she tries to fight. She ends up being wrong. He fights back. She says, I'm wrong.
Yeah, so we're probably a year out before we consider anything. Okay. And like I said, we're renovating the house now, so we're going to try to get a few years out of it. Okay, yeah, no, totally get that. No, just giving you a quick call because obviously...
So hold on, I'll just tell you how this is going to go. You could start to... you could start to see how all of these will go. You probably recognize yourself in some of these calls. So how he ends that part of the conversation, he says, we're going to stay put for a little while. I bet you, I don't know, I haven't listened to this call over and over again, but just because I know the pattern, I've listened to 1,000 of these calls, what do you think she's going to do now? I bet you she's going to be number 4 on this list. She's going to try to make another argument for why this dude should do something. Ready?
Since you even had it on the market back in summer of last year, values have skyrocketed even since a year ago. So you can definitely make some good money now than you could have last year too. So just wanted to obviously give you a quick call because I just noticed that you guys took it off the market.
Yep. Lo and behold, here's another argument. She says, let me throw this Hail Mary. Nothing seems to be working. I'm going to stay logical, right? She's on the logic side of the brain. Well, prices are higher. Don't you see, dum-dum? Prices are higher. Don't you want to sell? I'm just calling you just to let you, what are you dumb? She's not saying that. She's saying, prices are a lot higher this year than they were. You can make a lot more money now. She makes another argument for why he should do something. Now, you know a little bit about the psychology because hopefully you're learning some shit in these videos. You should know how the prospect's going to respond. Because everybody, if you're a human being, psychological reactance gets kicked in. She kicks it in. She's making the argument for, hey, you should be doing this thing. Hello, prices are higher. Now let's watch him argue back why he shouldn't do that.
Hasn't looked like anything's changed since then. Yeah. But all right. Well, if anything changes.
You hear him? No. Yep. All right. Which means I'm over this conversation. The prospect gets a little exhausted. I'm done with the tug of war. I'm not going back and forth with you. You're obviously a salesperson. You obviously are not listening to anything I'm saying. This whole call has been about you, right? And let's see how it ends.
In the meantime, this is my direct number. Again, my name is Nicole. If you have any questions or if you're even just curious what the house can sell for now compared to last year.
She's still going. She says, fuck it. Let's do it again. This call's going nowhere. Let me just do it again to see how it's going to work. Well, listen, I appreciate it. Well, if you ever want to know how much your house is worth, again, make it about me. All right. And let me make an argument for why this person should do. Do you think any prospects are going to be like, oh, yeah, I would love for you, realtor, out of the blue to stay in touch with me to let me know about my home's worth? They're never going to do that. Let's see how he responds. It's going to be a blow off. I already know. Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah. He's just trying to get off the call. Let's see.
I send you over something as well, too, if that's something you're interested in. Yeah, not at the moment, but thank you, Nicole. No problem at all.
Shocker. Nope. I'm good. I'm all set. Nah, I'm not interested in that. I mean, for goodness sake. Now, I know I'm getting a little excited. It pains me to see people make call after call after call after call like this and just get nowhere. It's got to be frustrating. If I'm you and I'm making calls that sound like this girl's call, where it's just the back and forth tug of war, you try to logically tell them why they should meet with you, why they should sell now, why they should look at your team because your team sells all the houses in the market. And you're the neighborhood expert. All this logical BS that doesn't penetrate the brain's limbic system because you don't understand how to communicate because people don't make decisions logically. They make them emotional and then they justify them later intellectual. If that's you, it's got to be frustrating. It's got to be painful. Hell, I bet you feel like you're like a hamster on that wheel. And you just make call after call, day after day, week after week, month. Now, yes, you make thousands and thousands of calls like this, and you badger enough people, and you beg enough people. Sure, some of them are going to let you come over. Sure, you've probably win some listings talking like this. All these scripts out there. One of the worst is when, this expired cold call script that goes something like, hey, I'm calling because I noticed your house had come off the market, and I was calling to find out when you planned on interviewing the right agent of get your property sold, or something like that. I mean, of course, that's never going to work. Of course, prospects say, never, I'm not interested. Take me off your list. Stop calling me. You all sound the same. Of course, that's never going to work. Because let's be honest. What are people interested in talking about? Do you think they give a rat's ass about you, about your team, about your company? Prospects don't owe you anything. Just the way you don't care about that. People like talking about themselves. People are only interested in themselves. We have to stop making the script about you, the realtor, which they do not care about, shift all of that to make it about the prospect, communicate in a way that assumes no interest to allow prospects to argue against it so that you stop eliciting reactance from people, stop pissing off prospects, start communicating in a way where the prospects, you know what? You're different. You sound different. I don't know what it is, but I've enjoyed this conversation. We stop begging for appointments and we start getting invited to appointments because of how you're going to learn to communicate. Now, listen, I know we're barely touching the surface. I know most of you are like, well, dude, show me what I should be doing. Give me a script. Give me something then. Well, I'm working on it. I'm going to have the newest version of language patterns, I'll call them, and you might want to call it, I don't know, you call them a script. I'm going to have this ready for you guys. I'm going to be releasing the newest version of what we used to call our script playbook. We'll be releasing that soon, and it will kind of show you how to structure questions in a way that have prospects discover for themselves that potentially meeting with you is in their best interest, and get you out of the business of trying to convince people that they should meet with you. And once you learn how to communicate that way, you will love selling. You will love the art of conversation. You'll love to prospect. You won't resist and do everything in your power to avoid picking up this phone any longer. You'll actually look forward to having these conversations every day, because prospects will thank you for it when you learn how to communicate, which is what we're going to spend the vast majority of the content on this channel is going to be advanced sales training techniques, behaviors, mindsets. We're going to focus all on sales, because here's the last thing I'll leave you with. I know we're getting a little long-winded here. In all the questions that I get from agents that I coach, that agents that reach out, they almost always start off with, Brandon, what should I say when the prospect says this? That is a question of how do I sell? And because that's 95% of the questions I get, it tells me that we don't need to be spending all the time on all this other stuff. We need to spend all of our time. I need to spend all of my effort on teaching this industry truly how to sell without being salesy, without using outdated sales tactics that do nothing but piss off prospects. That's what you guys are telling me that you need help with. And that's what I'm committed to doing moving forward.